Hi everybody, my name is Danielle Nicole and welcome to Monetary Makeup. So I have a huge grin on my face because for today's video, we are going to be trying out Hindash's palette for the first time, which is called Beautopsy. Now I know this palette released about 6 months ago, but I was not able to get my hands on it until now, so I am so excited to share with you my thoughts. So I'm going to be doing a demo for you all, as well as a wear test, and give you my final thoughts. And while we review this beautiful Hindash Beautopsy palette, the topic of the day is going to be related to huge Social Security changes. So whether you are already receiving Social Security benefits or if you plan on receiving Social Security benefits in the future, you are definitely not going to want to miss the topic of the day today. Alright, so first let's get started with the packaging. I really appreciate Hindash because, and now just in case you don't know who Hindash is, he is a professional makeup artist from Dubai, and I'm going to link his reveal video down below, so be sure to check that video out after you watch this one because he goes over way more in depth than I am going to as far as the inspiration behind creating this beautiful palette. So as far as the packaging goes, it's actually cardboard. However, I appreciate that because Hindash mentions himself that he's pretty klutzy, and I definitely am too. So the last thing he wanted was to have this palette drop on the floor and have it break. So by being made out of hard, sturdy cardboard, he hoped to avoid that. Now it also feels very luxurious. If there ever was a luxurious cardboard, this is definitely it. It feels very heavy and luxe, and overall with this kind of matte black finish, it's just absolutely beautiful. So when you open up this beautiful palette, there is a full mirror on this side, and I love that it folds over into almost like a book. So here is what this Beautopsy palette looks like. So you'll notice there are 6 different shades, however, they have a gradient finish. So just for an example, you'll notice this first shade, Tan Lines, starts off brown and then kind of fades gradually into a white. Now this technology is not necessarily new per se, however, creating pressed pigments in this gradient formula, as well as having different pigment payoffs in each palette, that is extremely unique, and I am so excited to try this out. So before we get started, let me read to you the shades from top to bottom. Soft tan brown that blends into pure white, wet paint, beige that blends into a banana yellow, boy wonder, peach that blends into a bubblegum pink, feel real, neutral brown that blends to a true concrete gray, love kills, fiery orange that blends into a hot red, and intrafatum, chocolate brown that blends into a pitch black. So despite being 6 different pans, there are actually 24 different colors that you can get just from the gradient, and that does not include actually mixing the different shades from each pigment. I am so excited and so proud of Hindash. As I mentioned, this has been sold out, but it is now on Beautylish. So if you were not able to pick this up, definitely check Beautylish or Hindash's website, which I will link below for you guys. So for the demo, I'm going to have one eye finish, and I will walk you through creating the look on my left eye. Now I ended up using this palette everywhere. I know there have been a few tutorials as far as eye looks, but I wanted to see if I could get away with using this palette not only on my eyes, but for my brows as well as the rest of my face, and blush and a highlight. So I am so excited to get started. If you are too, don't forget to hit the notification bell, the like button, and let's get started right now. Alright, so I've got you guys zoomed in, so first let's start with the brows. So first off, I have kind of a trick to doing my brows when I'm using powder. I am by no means a brow expert, but first I just wanted to explain what I am using. So this is just a flat angled liner brush from e.l.f. But what I did to this brush is I actually took a little bit of my Kiss eyelash glue and just dabbed a little bit of it on a paper plate. and then I took my brush in the glue and I kind of feathered it between, so that way I have this really sharp, precise brush. Let me just show you the difference. So these two brushes from e.l.f., even though they're different colors, they're actually the same bristles. So by taking the glue, you get this very sharp line. Can you guys see the difference right there? And the only thing I have in my brows so far is the NYX brow glue. And then I have been trying to grow my eyebrows out, and it's a long story, but I put a patch right here and it ripped my eyebrow hairs out. So I can't just use powder. So the only thing I have on is the Urban Decay Brow Blade. You can see how precise of a line this creates in Cool Cookie. And I literally only have 3 strokes right there just to get started. So the next trick that I just wanted you to be aware of for what I'm doing, so I have a damp washcloth right here. So when I want those really precise strokes to emulate with powder, I actually take the brush and I just run it through once or twice. And what this does is it dampens the brush. That way I will get a much more precise, sharp, pigmented colored line. So the only 2 colors I used on my brows to do this brow was the brown from Tan Lines, but the main contender is the gray from Feel Real. So I'm just going to be dipping into more of the gray, and if I need to lighten it up, then I'll add a little bit of Tan Lines. So this is crazy, you guys. You get the most precise lines doing it this way because I've dampened the brush. Yeah, the brush. It's been a long day, guys. But because I have dampened the brush, it creates these very precise strokes. And I am more than comfortable using this palette for my brows because you can create any shade that you would like. It just does a wonderful job. So can you see those precise lines right there? That is all from Hindash's palette. So I'm just going to go through and add a few more strokes. Okay, next let's move on to the eyes. So this look is surprisingly easy, and it definitely did not take me that much time. So I'm going to walk you through it step by step. Now the only thing I have on my eyes right now is the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer. And just to save time, I did go in between tan lines and wet paint just to set the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer. So once I zoom you guys in for the final look, what I find really exquisite about these shades is that even if you go in a little bit more towards the left or the right, you are still getting that light gradient of different shades. So the first shade I am going to go in with is Feel Real, which is actually my favorite palette shade. And I'm just going to be basically buffing this all over the crease, going more towards the gray side. Wayne Goss number 5. I'm so happy I picked up Wayne Goss's Edit collection. These brushes make blending an absolute breeze. I'm going to go in with one more layer, and just so you guys know, I am not tapping off any of the pigment. I'm going straight in, and I am focusing most of the shade on the outer corner as well as the crease. But my point is, without tapping off the brush, I have zero fallout, which for pressed pigments is incredible. See, that was one shade, yet can you see the gradient from gray to brown? And that was just dipping in the same spot. So part of the reason I love this pigment is because of that gradient. So you're never going to get the exact same shade, and it's just a flawless finish with multiple gradients of shades. Next, to highlight the brow bone, I'm going to go in with the white shade from Tan Lines. Wayne Goss number 7. I did not think that the white would really do justice for an inner corner or a brow bone highlight, but it does a beautiful job, and because of the undertone of the white, I wouldn't say it's a stark white. It almost has, dare I say, almost a light blue shift to it, and I'm sure that's incorrect, but at least on my skin tone, It's a beautiful gradient of white, so it doesn't look like pure white pigment. It actually does give the effect of a highlight. Next, I'm going to cut the crease using Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define Concealer in the shade C0.5. Now, you most definitely do not have to cut the crease. I actually wasn't sure how pigmented the white would be, which I'm going to apply next from tan lines. So I just wanted to give it a go. So I only took that cut crease in about halfway in, and I'm just using my finger to tap in. Next, I'm going to pack on the white from tan lines where I cut the crease, so about halfway in. Rougher number 2 brush. So what I noticed doing the other eye with using these pressed pigments is that each palette pigment has a different level of pigmentation. So if the first shade you go in with does not have a ton of pigment, don't assume that the others don't. I made that mistake the other day and went in a little bit heavy-handed with the red shade called Love Kills. So just keep that in mind. Same shade, the white from tan lines, and I'm going to use Sonia Kashuk brush just to pack on the inner corner. So it feels like silk blending these shades out. It's so difficult to explain. It's not like they're creamy, but they have almost a silk effect. And so far, every shade I have played with has just been absolutely stunning. I would imagine even on more tan or deeper undertones, that white would probably show up so much more. And like I said, it almost has a hint of periwinkle or something to it. And it's just such a beautiful inner corner highlight. So next I'm going to create a faux eyeliner using this palette on the upper lash line. And here's where it starts to get just a little bit more intricate. So on the inner corner and the inner half, I should say, of the eye, I'm going to go in with the brown from Intrafetum. And then as I get towards the outside, I'm going to dip more into the black shade, so that way there's a soft gradient from warm chocolate brown to black. e.l.f. Eyebrow Duo Brush. So I'm almost creating a wing right here, but a very small one. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell on camera, but I created a gradient kind of going from orange to a reddish brown out here. So to do that, I'm going back in with the e.l.f. small angled brush. And don't forget, this is the one that I put the lash glue on. So I'm going to get a very precise line, that way I have complete control. So I'm just going to start applying that line from the inner to the outer. And just like this shade Love Kills is, I start off a little bit closer to the love side, and as I get towards the outer corner, I mix the Kill shade with a little bit of the brown from Intrafetum. See what a precise line you get with using that little trick with the glue? Okay, so the easiest way I find to do this is to first stamp it on, and then you can use this brush to blend it out a little bit. But first, I recommend just stamping it on. And I'm going above where my natural crease is since I have slightly hooded eyes, and this is going to create a bigger eye, or at least make it look like I have a bigger eye. And then once I've kind of stamped where I want it, then I'm going back in with a little bit more pigment just to build it up. And then I'm just connecting the bottom to the top. So that's it. That little line took maybe 60 seconds. So next, to blend everything together, I'm going to go on right smack dab in the middle of Feel Real and mix that with Intrafetum, and then just get a touch of Love Kills for the outer corner. Wayne Goss number 7. So I'm just going to kind of blend this on the outer corner so that way everything blends together on the outside. Next, to blend in the middle from the brown to the white, I'm going to mix the white from tan lines and the yellow from wet paint. Rougher number 2. So I'm just going to pop this kind of right in the middle just to blend everything together. Alright, lastly, to blend everything together so everything looks seamless, I'm going to dip into the brown from tan lines. Going back in with Wayne Goss number 5. Just giving this a little bit of a blend. I don't want to do too much because I don't want to blend away that red that I put down. All right, that is it for the upper portion of the eye. So again, didn't take long at all. Next, for the lower lash line, I'm going to mix the brown from Tan Lines and right in the middle for Feel Real. Refer number 2, just going to smoke out the lower lash line. And then to connect the upper and lower lash line, I'm going to dip into the brown from Intrafatum and apply a little bit of the gray from Feel Real. Still using refer number 2. So I just want to connect everything together. Pop on just a little bit more of the white from Tan Lines. Next, I'm going to apply mascara, and then we will work on the face. Okay, now that the eyes are finished, next let's set the face. So because I have a cool pink kind of fair to light undertone, this banana yellow from wet paint is going to be just probably a little bit too yellow. So I'm going to mix that, the wet paint, with the white from Tan Lines. Wayne Goss number 3. So I'm really curious how this powder is going to do over my oily, dehydrated skin. Not tapping the brush off. I can't see any powder on my forehead, and that is going in with a little bit of the yellow from wet paint. So what that tells me is that these pigments are very finely milled and then of course pressed. I am not seeing anything. Okay, now that I know it's not going to be too dark from wet paint, I'm going to use that a little bit more just to set the rest of my face gently. Really focusing this on my T-zone since I do have oily, dehydrated skin. So of course I do get oily throughout the day. All right, let's take a look here. How is my skin looking just set with that powder? It actually blurred my pores a little bit, which is really difficult to do with powder, so I'm impressed. I did not expect to really like that as a setting powder, but so far it looks very flawless. All right, let's try to create some contour bronzer. So I'm going to kind of mix between 3 different shades. So the brown from Tan Lines, and then the gray and the brown from Feel Real. For the cheeks, I'm going to use Sonia G Lotus Base Brush. So I went in very lightly because I'm a little nervous, so let's see. Ooh. Wow. With that gray mixed in, look at that. Can you see that? That sculpt right there compared to nothing? Ooh, I like that. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to the other cheek. Very nice. So I'm dipping in a little bit more to the brown for the upper portion of my cheekbones. That did a great job at sculpting the cheekbones, and it does not look too deep. And one of the great things is if you need to deepen it, you can dip into the darker chocolatey brown or even the black, or if you need to lighten it, you can dip into the yellow or the pure white. So I'm going to use the same colors that I use on my cheekbones. For my forehead, I'm going to use the Sephora Pro Demi Fan number 72. Yeah, that light brown from Tan Lines, and then dipping just a hint into the gray because I do have more of an ashier undertone. That is working out beautifully. Just going to buff this in a little bit. Okay, so I used a primer today that I don't typically do, and man, my nose foundation is just coming right off. So I'm just going to apply a little bit more concealer so I don't look like Rudolph. But the powder did a great job, and I know that my foundation isn't coming off from the powder. It's just from touching it because this primer just does not jive with my skin. I love this Kosas concealer, the Kosas Revealer Concealer. I've used this just as foundation all over my skin in the shade, 0.5N. And because it's neutral, not cool, it actually helps with redness quite a bit. So I just have to leave my nose alone for the rest of this tutorial. Okay, so this did a great job at creating a matte bronzer. So next, let's do the cheeks. Okay, so I have a cool undertone, as you can tell, and these pinks look a little bit more deep and a little bit more neutral to warm than I typically like. So what I'm going to do is go into Love Kills. Don't freak out. I know you guys are probably thinking, oh my gosh, this is for deep undertones. It probably is, but Hindash is the master artist and he gave us a white. So I'm going to dip a little bit very lightly into the Love Kills, but also the white to lighten the shade. e.l.f. Angled Blush Brush. So this time I am tapping it off, and I'm just going to go in real light. I'm a little bit nervous. Ooh. Do you see how beautiful that is? And it's not too deep. I'm so glad I went in with the red instead of the pink. That looks like I just came in from the Michigan cold weather. Oh, I love it. This is not my ideal blush brush, but the rest of mine are dirty, so we're just going with it. So if you're fair like me and you want to do this, I recommend going in between the red and the white and make sure the first and the last time you dip in, you do the white. That way it won't be too pigmented. Look at that. That's a beautiful blush shade. I was a little worried it was going to be too deep, but it does not look too dark in person. I've actually dipped in twice already, and this is my third time. So you can really build this up if you want, but it's great to know that you can use these shades if you're fair. All right, I am obsessed with Love Kills, and I went in more towards a deeper red. So next is to highlight. Of course, I'm going to dip into the matte white from Tan Lines. Wayne Goss number 4. So this is not going to be a stark highlight, of course, being a matte. And I really think that if you have a deeper skin tone than me, this will probably show up more. So as far as a highlight on the cheekbones right here, it's okay. I mean, it does look nice and it lightened a little bit, but because I'm super fair, it doesn't show up that much. But as far as using that as an inner corner highlight and a brow bone, that white, superb. Okay, before we cut into the topic of the day, I'm going to lean in a little bit closer so that way you can see what my skin and my eyes are looking like. I really like how that eyeshadow turned out. All right, next let's cut into the topic of the day, and then we will get into my final thoughts as well as a wear test. Hi everybody, welcome to the topic of the day. So if you are already receiving Social Security benefits, or if in the future you are planning on receiving Social Security benefits, then you are not going to want to miss this topic of the day. So many of you may have heard that we are about to receive the largest rate increase for Social Security of all time. So the government has released that they plan on, for the year of 22, increasing Social Security almost 6%. That number is huge. Now, of course, whenever I hear of a rate increase or whenever others hear of a rate increase for Social Security benefits, everyone gets really excited, right? I mean, it's more money for your Social Security. But the unfortunate reality is that typically when they increase Social Security benefits, they typically increase other areas due to inflation. So for those who are not familiar with Medicare benefits, for Medicare Part B, there is a premium in order to receive Medicare benefits. Typically with Part A, there's no premium if you are a citizen and you have worked and you've already paid for those benefits from your FICA taxes. But for Medicare Part B, there has been a premium for this year in 2021 of $148.50. But unfortunately for 2022, when they also released the information about Social Security going up, of course, what ended up happening is they also anticipate Medicare Part B premium increasing. So the Medicare Part B premium that right now currently is $148.50 per month is planned to increase to $170.10. Now, for those who don't know, Typically for Medicare Part B, we are used to seeing rate increases of, $5 or $10 or so, but going up over $20, this is a huge increase. In fact, this is one of the biggest Medicare increases we've ever seen. So for those who are turning 65 or are already on Medicare, instead of paying $148.50 for this year in 2021, expect to be paying $170.10 starting in 2022. So you might be wondering why, as a financial services representative, I'm talking about Social Security and Medicare, but that's because Social Security and Medicare benefits directly affect your finances as well as insurance. So I'm actually kind of at a disbelief for how much of an increase not only Social Security is going up, but also with Medicare. And the reason that they said we are seeing such high increases for 2022 is basically due to inflation and the pandemic. So I just want you to all be aware of what this increase means, how much it's going up, and how it's going to affect you. Please make sure your financial advisor is including Social Security benefits into your financial plan if, of course, you do in fact receive Social Security and Medicare benefits. So please comment monetary makeup down below if these topic of the days are helpful for you guys, as well as if you have any questions or comments. Definitely leave them down below and I'll be sure to get to as many as I can. So I hope that helped to clarify any questions you may have had about the increases for Social Security as well as the Medicare Part B premium. Alright, next let's cut into the wear test right now. Hi everybody, my makeup has been on now for about 8 hours, so let's get into my final thoughts for the Hindash Beautopsy palette. So overall, would I recommend this palette? 110%. These shades as well as the design, just everything about this palette is so sophisticated and refined. And one of my favorite things about this palette is you can really customize it to fit not only your depth of your skin tone, but also you can alter the shades themselves. So you can mix different colors, or you can lighten them up by dipping into the white, or you can deepen them up by dipping into any of the deeper brown, the gray, or even the black matte shade. This is a palette I am definitely going to be getting a ton of use out of, and I plan on using this every single day in my collection. So first let's start with the brows. So by using that little trick, by using the glue on the brow brush as well as wetting it, you really can get those micro bladed strokes. And because this palette includes that gray as well as different levels of brown as well as the white and the black, this palette just performed beautifully on my brows. So if I ever was traveling, I would not feel the need to pack any other brow products other than maybe the ABH Brow Freeze or the NYX Brow Glue. So for the brows, this did a wonderful job. Now as far as the face goes, I think you guys saw my reaction when I dipped into Love Kills. I was a little bit worried it was going to be way too bright, but this is the shade that typically matches my cool undertone. So when I mixed Love Kills with the white from Tan Lines, it just created a beautiful color undertone. And the overall powder for the face, not only the blush but the skin, everything basically melted in immediately. And I believe that these powders are so finely milled and pressed that even when I went over with the banana yellow, being such a pink cool person, you could not see any powder on my skin whatsoever. So these blend flawlessly. Now as far as the eyes go, I mean, you guys saw it took me maybe 5 minutes to create this look, and this is a little bit more intricate than I typically do. So the fact that I was able to create such a beautiful look but so quickly, and the powders just, they blend so quick, so easy, so flawlessly. So I think whether you are a makeup artist or a beginner, I don't think you will have any issues blending out these pigments on your eyes. Now I do want to mention to definitely check out Hindash's video, his reveal video, where he explains kind of the whole theme behind the creation. But just keep in mind these are pressed pigments, so I'm pointing to the red because, as many of you know, typically reds can cause irritation or stain the eye. So just proceed with caution if you do plan on using this on the eyes. Now, I didn't go crazy with the red, but as far as all day, I haven't had any issues whatsoever. In fact, even applying the powder really on any of my face, but especially the eyes, you couldn't even tell, or I should say, I couldn't even feel it. So as you're blending, it feels like you're applying nothing, yet you're getting wonderful payoff for the pigments. The other thing I want to mention is I get so inspired simply looking at this palette. Because each pigment has multiple different shades and you can mix them to your liking, the options are seriously endless. So I don't see any look I really wouldn't be able to create. But as far as creativity itself, I'm definitely inspired just by looking and playing around with this beautiful palette. So Hindash, if you do watch this video, I just want to say congratulations. I know I'm a little bit late to the party as it was sold out. Of course, I'm not surprised. I am so excited to see what you create in the future. But as far as your first release, I am absolutely blown away, and you bet as soon as I run out, because I'm sure I'll be using this every day, I do plan on picking up another one. So just congratulations, Hindash. You definitely deserve it. I'm so proud of you, and I look forward to using this palette in future videos. Did you guys ever end up picking up Hindash's Beautopsy palette? Don't forget, this is on Beautylish now as well, and they have those monthly payments that you can spread out. So let me know, did you pick it up? Do you plan on it? If you've tried it, do you enjoy it? Let me know all your thoughts down below, and I look forward to seeing you all in my next video. Thanks everybody. Have a great day.